So look, the main event. Whew, man, I gotta say, man, I put money down. I put a parlay down, and you told me once again, you're right. I really should listen to you because I don't think you're really ever wrong with your picks. You're pretty good, Mike.
Yeah, I'm always wrong on TV though, because on TV I kind of skew it a little bit because I take people's personal feelings into consideration. Because I know for a fact, obviously because I fight myself, when you're in the locker room, the pre-fight show, the Fox pre-fight show airs in the locker room, and sometimes, you know, if a guy's rooting against you, it can affect your psyche, it can affect your confidence, it can just bring negative energy into the room. And of course, if you know that person as well, and you know, obviously I work with Daniel Cormier a lot over at Fox, it's kind of a dick move as well. So, you know, I did predict Cormier to win, and you know, on TV I predicted Cormier to win. I thought in my heart of hearts John Jones would do it, but I didn't want to put those bad vibes out there. You know what I'm saying? I want to project positivity towards him because realistically that first fight was pretty close. The first 3 rounds DC did an amazing job. Okay, 4 and 5 he clearly lost, but the case for me saying DC was going to win wasn't purely based on I'm trying to do a solid to a friend. Of course. You know what I mean? That wasn't me being a complete sellout and disrespecting Jones or DC. I could see DC winning the fight, and because it was so close in my mind, I thought I at least owe him that respect to put that out there. So that's why I did pick DC. But, you know, if someone put a gun to my head and said, who wins, DC or Jones? I'd have said Jones. I would have said Jones.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I was kind of torn on it, and part of me was picking, I don't want to say pick with my heart, but I'm kind of picking for who I'm rooting for.
he's you know, it's interesting. Like somebody said to me once that DC should be fighting middleweight. I'm like, go stand next to him and say that.
He's
core a tank.
Is like this thick.
Yeah, he's a tank.
He's a big dude.
Yeah, he might only be 5'10".
Well, they say that because he's a little chubby, but
yeah.
he's stronger than anybody can imagine. You don't pick up Dan Henderson.
How about Josh Barnett? Remember when he was fighting heavyweight in Strikeforce? Yes. He picked up Josh Barnett like he was a pillow and slammed him on the ground.
That's what I mean. Like the guy, like blows my mind how good he is.
Yeah,
and I don't think
phenomenal
people give him enough credit.
Like,
I know DC on a training level when I watch him train on a personal level. I mean, he's DC. He's crazy. He's always talking out of his butt, you know, to an extent. It's hilarious. But he's a beast, man. You got to respect that.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Me too.
He's a great guy. He's in the era of John Jones, you know, and he lost to John in his first fight. And he's also dealing with the fact that John, although I love John too, John's a fuck up. You know, and so he's got to sort of be there while John keeps fucking up, and then a lot of it comes back to him.
But that's where I look at DC and why I try to give him all the respect in the world I can, because I don't feel that people give enough respect to DC for the fact that he's not fucking.
Right. No, he's
like,
a great
how come
guy.
You don't?
Right.
How does that get overlooked? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with people can connect to fuck ups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Too.
There's
because,
that.
You know, I mean, and John Jones is that good.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
That's
he's literally that good.
He's that good he could beat you after he did coke 3 weeks ago.
I don't know what to say about
the thing about John.
I'm good enough to win after 3 surgeries, you know? So let's see. We can test the waters on both. Let's see who does what. I'll do a line of coke next time and then try to jump in there and see how I do, and let's blow his knees out 3 times and then we'll see who's better.
Well, that's a different animal, you know? I mean, it's interesting that sometimes people are just supremely talented physically and they don't have to deal with as many trials and tribulations in that regard. You know, he's very gifted. Like John, like it's interesting. I've always said this, like there's a way that John gets a hold of people that, you know, you could almost tell when he gets a hold of them that they've really have never felt anything like that before. And you saw it with DC. You know, DC, who's a supremely talented wrestler. I mean, one of the best wrestlers to ever compete in MMA.
Period.
John Jones got a hold of him, and you could see DC was like, oh, shit. Like, this guy is no joke.
I agree. I mean,
John's a stud.
Yeah.
He's a fucking stud.
He's that good.
He's that good.
He's that good.
But
and so is DC,
so
though.
is DC.
DC could still beat him. I really believe that.
It's entirely possible. There
was
still a very close fight.
I would probably, if I had to choose on paper, you take Jones depending on how healthy he is.
Well, DC was so furious that he didn't fight him in the Ovin St. Preux fight because he was like, I would have beat that John Jones. Because I did commentary with him in that fight. He's like, I would have beat that John Jones.
And here's another thing on that, okay? Because how's that? That might not be true either.
Right.
Because that John Jones would have trained differently for you than he trained for Ovince St. Preux.
Yeah.
And and he hates...
Well, the Ovince St. Preux was a very late replacement.
Don't
right?
forget this, though. I mean, how much does he hate DC? He's not going to let that
get
away from him. It's
a
a different level of training you're doing for different people and where your emotions are with that human being.
That's a really good point.
It is.
But don't you think that was a big factor in the first fight as well? Because DC was very emotionally wrapped up in fighting John. It was very intense because he had never had anybody disrespect him like that. They had that fist fight at the press conference.
That definitely had to do with it.
Sure.
Of course. That has to do with every fight. It has to do with my fights. It has to do with all of them. You have to calculate. It had to do with Conor McGregor fights.
Oh, yeah.
Ronda Rousey.
Daniel Cormier, how are you?
I'm good. Hanging out. Kind of seems like deja vu a little bit.
Yes.
We're doing it again.
Last time we did an interview in your hotel room before a fight was 3 days before UFC 182, exactly the Wednesday night before UFC 182. That time you were a challenger going into a big fight against John Jones. Now you're the champion going into a very big fight against John Jones. Could I ask, what is the difference between this Daniel Cormier and that Daniel Cormier, other than being the champion, of course, just in terms of the actual man?
Confidence, more confident now. You know, as we talked in that hotel in Vegas the first time, I was a bit overwhelmed by the whole situation. It was a lot, you know. I mean, headlining the MGM Grand, I had never done that. Fighting John Jones, first UFC title fight. There were a lot of firsts as I went into that fight. As a man, I'm much more mature. You know, I'm married now. There's just a lot of different things and aspects to me that have changed. Now, the reality is, all that doesn't matter. I just have to be a better fighter come Saturday night.
Do you think about